Irish Nation, some people just can't keep our names out they damn mouths. Including those biased little wine boxes at ESPN. Which include that crybaby Scam Newton and that big Alabama toting banner Stephen A. Smith. And he had more to say on his show on Friday. These stories and more on this 2-part series. Oh yeah, because I got to get to it. I got to get it all in. On this edition of Talk Like a Champion. Welcome back, Domers. Thank you all so much for joining us here on this edition of Talk Like a Champion. Of course, you're talking with the one and only Mr. CeeLo. And Domers, before I get into it, I just want to give a huge shout out to my buddy Bruce over at the Format Podcast. This is the first show I've done since you guys, I did the Format Podcast on Tuesday night of last week, and it was basically going over our selections in the transfer portal, and I had some technical difficulties, so I really couldn't chime in and I wanted to. The great John Kennedy was on there. If you guys know about him, Always Irish, he has a show on YouTube, also a podcast. He was on there, and we got to have a great segment, actually one segment with him, and the second segment myself and Bruce I thought we did a great job laying out how the NIL has exposed the SEC for what it is, and just it's gonna be a continued narrative, I think, for the next couple of months until the season starts. But guys, I'm gonna put the link down there. I would definitely encourage you guys to go over to the Format, watch myself, Bruce and John talk about certain things, and it was a pleasure to share the screen with those guys. I really look forward to doing their show yet again. Bruce and I keep in contact. But yeah, great opportunity for myself, and I was really very, very humbled that Bruce allowed me on his platform. Guys, make sure you go over to the Format Podcast. They do everything. If you're an NBA fan, go over there and check them out. If you're an NFL fan, check them out. If you are a college football fanatic like myself, go over there and check them out. You know, they really have some great stuff, and they do all sorts of other stuff, boxing and things of that magnitude, just all types of miscellaneous sports. Bruce is very knowledgeable, and he has a voice I wish I had. But I'll put the link down in the description. You guys go over there and check me out in one of my first debuts outside of my own platform. But guys, some of y'all have subscribed, and guys, I am not getting my subs. I'm going to try to dig. There are several of you that have joined the show. I'm so grateful you guys have been watching my reels, and thank you for all the encouragement. And as soon as my content is putting my comments, your comments, and your subs up, I will definitely give you a huge shout out. But let us get into it. Don't forget, guys, if you guys are a first-time viewer, put your name down below, as well as where you're from, as well as if you are a first-time subscriber, make sure you put your name down there. Because listen, you joining this Donehead family, this going to be us against the world. And after you hear what I'm about to let you guys listen to, you're going to understand why. Now, as many of you know, or maybe you don't know, the NCAA decided on, well, I would preferably say the Big 12 and the SEC decided on whether or not there was going to be an expansion. And if many of you don't know, that was turned down. Basically, you had a situation where I think the Big 10 wanted to go to 20 with the possibility of moving to 24. And of course, the SEC didn't like that. Me personally, where I go on this situation, I had no problem with the expansion. I think ultimately, if you guys watch on the Format Podcast, the show that we did, the SEC has won a lot of its championships based on the premise that they have to win one, maybe two games. And the inception of the college football playoff has really dampened what the SEC can do. Guys, if you notice, how many wins do the SEC have against somebody outside of their conference in this tournament? If I recall, it's only 3. And Texas has all 3 of them. And Shane's going to bring up an excellent point, you guys. I don't want to blow it. But, guys, they started on Notre Dame today because of that whole stipulation that was placed in this format that Notre Dame will get an automatic bid if they finish in the top 10. I want you guys to keep in mind that if they finish in the top 12. Now, let's listen to what Stephen A. Smith's response to this, how Notre Dame, what the Notre Dame stipulation was, or his response to it.
Number 2, the reason why I'm ticked off is because what the hell is this about Notre Dame? Why do we got a separate category for Notre Dame? What makes them so damn special? I'm really getting sick of this Notre Dame fawning. I mean, who the hell are they? Okay, they're Fighting Irish. Whatever. I love Marcus Freeman. Love him.
First of all, for a man that says he does so much research, who the hell are the Fighting Irish? Who the hell are the Fighting Irish? I mean, you don't like the preferential treatment that you claim. Where in this does it say preferential treatment? All it says is that if Notre Dame finishes in the top 12, they get a bid. Only way that sticks is unless Notre Dame finishes 12th and a Power 5 team is finishing outside of it, and there's a team that's ranked number 11. That means they go home. So I'm trying to figure out what a preferential treatment is. I mean, let's look at the ACC. Duke was going to get in, and Shay made that clear earlier in the broadcast, you guys. You know, for somebody who's so keen on history, I find it funny that certain people's memories only go back to the 2000s, maybe the 1990s, maybe the 1980s. People soon forget, and this is why, I get a little frustrated because I don't like repeating myself. I'm not a guy that likes to continuously do shows on the same topics that I've done already. I've already done this show way back in October and September. May have been October. I talked about how Notre Dame wanted to join conferences years ago. And realistically, he's going to talk about money later on in this. But the point I'm making here is Notre Dame had to build its own brand. Notre Dame had to come out of obligatory and purgatory in order to be where it is today. You don't understand because you don't know. See, you sound ignorant when you talk about things you don't know what you're talking about. We're thankful that the Army Academy and the Naval Academy were able to take us on during the 30s and 40s when the Big Ten would not allow us in, didn't want no part of us. And see, now what it is, now that Notre Dame has built, this is what this talking point is. You ultimately want us to be in a conference so we don't have that extinct or that prestige that we have. Now, a lot of people say, well, you're going to lose your prestige if you join a conference. Well, there's a lot of things that we're allotted to do if we're not in a conference. See, in my opinion, Stephen A. Smith's the same guy that says he believes in free speech. If Notre Dame doesn't want to join a conference, isn't that infringing on somebody's freedom if they don't want to join a conference? Or better yet, how about applauding the fact that they can be independent? Now, do I agree with all of the grumbling that took place? Maybe not necessarily. But do I see it's warranted? Absolutely. Because truth be told, people, if you got a gripe at your job or you got a gripe with somebody, are you just going to sit there and take it? I'm not. It's just like I'm sure many of you won't. And see, what really gets under my skin is when people like him who will say challenge the establishment, but then he challenges people and calls people out who actually challenge the system. I got no beef or no warrant with anybody that challenges the system or the establishment, as long as it's warranted. And the way Notre Dame was drugged through the mud and teased, I don't agree with that. I don't agree how that happened. And you guys know how I stand about it. I don't care if Miami did make the national title game, you guys. The fact of the matter is, Miami was in a conference. They knew when they won that game against Notre Dame in South Beach what they had to do. They put the schedule up there. And I've said this on my show previous times. You failed in the mission. You had your auto bid. See, this is what people fail to understand. And then they want to turn it around and put it on the ACC. Miami, all they had to do was win their conference in Notre Dame, and Miami would have been in. I think that gets forgotten throughout this whole mess. Everybody wants to throw it out there. Oh, well, Miami proved their worth. Oh, blah, 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 blah. They didn't handle their business. I'm just saying what's a lot of people's minds. And truth be told, it just confirms a lot of what people in Irish Nation have been thinking years ago. You jealous. You can't stand the fact that we can stand alone without the net of a conference, without the protection of a conference. We can do it, but you can't. And it pisses you off.
Love him, okay? Great coach, all right? And I respect Notre Dame. And I want to...
I get so tired of this disingenuous, I respect Notre Dame. I can't stand when people say that kind of stuff and then you come with the negative. I can't stand the patronizing. And then you come with some fiery garbage behind it. I have yet, I think maybe once in all the years he's been sucking up to Nick Saban that he said, I respect you in this, that, and then you say this. You add something behind it about an SEC team or, let me rephrase it, a reputable SEC team. My thing is, don't sit here and say you love Marcus Freeman and you respect Notre Dame. Stop it. Stop it. Because if you really did, you would stop with your stupid little ignorant monologue rant and think they get an automatic bid just if they finish in the top 12, which basically means if they're number 12, they still get in, but that means one team that's 11 gets put out. That's all it means, Steven.
Stupid.
That's all it means.
Dumb shit. Dumb shit. Dumb shit.
State for the record that I think that they should have been in the postseason. I get it. They were clearly one of the top 12 teams in the nation. But when people are complaining about, well, Alabama went in there ahead of them. Well, Alabama went to Athens and beat Georgia on the road weeks earlier. Yeah, they got stomped in the SEC championship game by Georgia.
You guys see how did you listen to the tone there? He said, well, you just went into Athens and you beat Georgia. Now, granted, you got... See, he tried to minimize that. And see, this is what they're doing. This is what SEC biases do. They basically minimize the negatives. But you lift up all the positives. I mean, you overinflate them to the point that you got people... And that's what this is. It's basically rhetoric. That's basically what it boils down to is rhetoric. And needless to say, you could see it when you talk about, okay, the ESPN the two flagship banners of two conference banners they fly are the ACC and the SEC. It's obvious. And I know you guys like myself are sick of it because the SEC has been nothing. Nothing. And I'll get to that in a minute.
A few weeks later, but they were pretty banged up at that particular moment in time, and they had beaten Georgia on the road.
Then he brings up they had beaten Georgia on the road, and now they were banged up. Irish Nation, how many guys on the offensive line were out for the duration of the season? How many times have we had to shuffle that offensive line, guys? Defensively, when we went to the Natty last year, how many guys were we missing? I just get so sick of the excuses. Realistically, Irish Nation, I don't see us out there making excuses. But see, here's the thing, you guys. When Georgia went into South Bend and beat Notre Dame back in 2017, you guys remember who we started, right? Okay. Do you guys remember who went to the NFL that year because Brian Kelly's antics? I'll remind you, it was a gentleman by the name of Deshaun Kaiser. Now, Georgia fans neglect to see that point. I'll tell you right now, if Deshaun Kaiser plays in that game, now, this ain't no flight at my buddy Brad. This is one of those where Georgia fans and SEC fans are always so quick to say, we had injuries. Anytime you see, this is why I said, this is what the SEC stands for. Sorry excuse conference. Because every time somebody outside of their conference beats them or some team that they like beats them, that's just like when they say, oh, SEC team can't get in the CFP because they're playing SEC. Sorry excuse conference. And guys, I'm going to trademark that because realistically, I know that's going to catch on. I've already, if you guys watch my reel, I've already made the little stamp or the little emblem. That's going to stick. And then you're going to see it on this show. Guys, I'm really sick of it. And this is why a lot of y'all said don't adopt the us against the world mentality. But realistically, it is what it is. Because the truth of the matter is when I sit here and I listen to this rhetoric, and that's what it is. Paul Weinbaum does it. Stephen A. Smith does it. Scam Newton does it. They all perpetuate these BS stories to try to keep the SEC relevant. And I even heard one. Bruce put me on this today. I don't want to ramble too much. I want to stay on the topic. I'm going to do another show about all this. Y'all going to get some stuff coming at me. But I just want y'all to understand, you need to have ammo for when this comes out. Because realistically, it gets better. It gets better, trust me.
They played a conference championship game. What was Notre Dame doing? They were at home sitting on their couch. Why? Because they're not a member of a conference. They had an opportunity to be a member of a conference due to AD.
Now, he said, what was Notre Dame doing on championship week? Sitting at home. So was Ole Miss. So was Oregon. So is Texas A&M. Do I need to keep going? Do I need to keep going? So was Miami. And was Oklahoma. So all this talk about joint a conference and what were they doing on Saturday? Stephen ass. Stop being an ass. Because realistically, even if you look at the way the format is right now, you could still very well have. You got 12 slots, sir. You got 4 conference champions in the Power 4 that will go. Then you got the non-Power 6. Yes, that's right, guys. We now have the Pac-12. They're not even considered a power conference anymore. They're considered a non-Power 6. One of the non-Power 6s. That only means 5 auto bids. Where the other 7 coming from? Is it a guarantee they're going to be playing on championship week? So you got pretty much over almost half the field could be guaranteed to not be in this thing. And they didn't play on championship week. So Stephen asks, what are you talking about?
You some bitches couldn't close an umbrella.
What he said?
What a dumbass.
That was pathetic.
I mean, the problem I have so much with these arguments is that you can poke holes in them left and right. Look, you don't have to like Notre Dame. Don't tell me you respect us. That respect is not there because you can't even make that make sense. You're sitting here saying that Notre Dame doesn't deserve, if they're in the top 12 to be in this thing. You're upset because they got a clause in there. Well, it's obvious somebody's got to protect a major brand. Because obviously you and your ignorant compadre, Scam Newton, can't see the difference. It's not like they said if Notre Dame's number 20, they get in. The reality of it is Notre Dame could play. Let me not get ahead of myself.
Sitting there whining and moaning about how, Miami, the ACC commission didn't speak up for Notre Dame, but spoke up for Miami. Well, you got about 25 sports. 23 of them are in the ACC.
Now, I'm not going to go deep into that because that's not the relevance here. Because realistically, yes, Notre Dame does have all but football, their Olympic sports that are tied to the conference of the ACC. I get all that. I understand that. Do I think that the wording of the ACC should have came out for Notre Dame? Of course not. And the problem with people like Stephen A. Smith see is that the lobbying was heavily against Notre Dame. And realistically, in his own argument, when people sit here and they say, Miami beat Notre Dame head-to-head in week 0 or week 1, whichever the hell you want to call it. That was so long ago, the temperatures were in the 80s. We're sitting right here in the low 40s right now. What are you talking about? And to your own point, Alabama beat Georgia in their building by the skin of their teeth. And then you come up with this week behind argument, oh, they had injuries against Georgia in the SEC title game. Sorry excuse conference. You're supposed to show up to win. Your conference is supposed to be the best conference on the planet. That means, and I said this on the format, you guys, your backup is supposed to be the equivalent to most team starters. And they were at one point. But thank you, NIL, for exposing the SEC what it was. As I said, when you make these kind of disingenuous arguments and you just spout and you don't think about what's coming out your mouth, you really make yourself sound ignorant. Especially the one about being home on Saturday. I just gave you at least 5 teams that were sitting home Saturday. One of them didn't even win their they weren't even in their championship game. 2 teams played. They were the rep. One thing you can say At least the sorry excuse conference had their conference champion in there. ACC didn't even have a champion in there. I'm through with Stephen A for now.
Up Notre Dame. Get your ass in a conference and compete like everybody else. You sit up there, SEC got a contract, ACC got a contract, Big Ten got a contract. As a conference, Notre Dame got a contract with NBC all by its damn self. You know, and then expecting privileges. This is not right. This is not right. Don't jump behind a big like everybody else.
That is America. Miami didn't play in a conference championship game. Miami didn't play in a conference championship game.
This is the country we live in, right? Like, yes, people who feel special and can be treated special want to be treated special until you stop treating them special.
Right.
Period.
Right. They have to be ranked in the top 12 in order to make the CFP. This isn't like they just make it no matter what.
No, listen. I'm not mad about it.
Okay, well, you're over here talking about it. But this is America. It is fair.
Stephen A's upset about it. Like, if you want something to be done different, won't the NCAA get a backbone at some point? This starts with Mark Emmert, right? But Mark Emmert not saying, I'm going to step in and allow these players to profit off of their name, image, and likeness. So now it's the wild west. And then you put the transfer portal in a place where everybody's just a hired mercenary. They can go and do whatever they want, play whatever they want, leave whenever they want, because coach has been doing it forever. We don't have the rules and regulations that make this make sense. And anybody that is saying it should move to more teams is out of their minds.
Now, there's a couple of things here. Now, I didn't want to go into this, but unfortunately, I ran it into. I don't have it chopped up like it needs to be. But there's several points that need to be made here. I find it funny, and Ryan Clark mentioned it here. This is America, about being treated special. First of all, he has a duty, not Ryan Clark, but Emmert has a job to do. First and foremost, you still have to protect the brands that bring in the money. Now, the Ohio State Notre Dame game brought in, I think it was 22, 24 million viewers last year. And I think this one brought in, I think it was 30 million, I think it was. Guess who wasn't around? SEC! Last year's game, guess who wasn't around? SEC! So, realistically, when you talk about privilege and Emmert giving it to somebody, and it's just like Shay said, Notre Dame's not going to be 20th and get in the playoff. See, what I don't understand is when people hear, it's like trigger words. You say a trigger word to somebody, the whole sentence just gets left out in left field. It just totally goes over their head. Like it was never said, like it doesn't even exist. Nobody is giving Notre Dame a shot at the national championship if they finish 13th. They have to finish 12th or higher. Now, to Ryan Clark's point, especially about NIL, I'm not quite sure where he was going with the whole NIL thing, but I was starting to sense that he was basically going off on a little rumbling that was stating that these guys getting paid, that the NCAA should not allow them to get paid. Well, here's the thing. And I would love for an investigation to go into all of those players back in the day. And I think Bruce brought me up a whole bunch of, definitely go over to the format guys. He had some really good sound bites that actually said guys like, Ed Orgeron, the former LSU coach, saying on tape that they were paying players or giving them special privileges. Guys, if the one thing that the SEC falling has shown us through the NIL is that they were paying well before. I just find it hilarious that they messed with a guy like Reggie Bush, and Reggie Bush is only, a 5-hour ride from where he ended up playing school at? Yeah. I can see if Reggie Bush came from New Jersey somewhere. You've got Georgia players that come from way up there. If I remember right, either Nashawn Moreno or Matt Stafford was not from the state. One of those two guys. Yeah. You're not gonna sit here and then I was listening to another podcast where they said, "Oh, they want to play in the warm weather."
What the?
The warm weather. Yeah. It ain't exactly cold 24/7 in South Bend. It ain't cold 24/7 in Columbus. It ain't cold 24/7 in Ann Arbor. Well, that's debatable. But point I'm making is you get to a point where you just start believing your own BS. And it gets to be totally redundant at some point. I mean, you've drank the Kool-Aid so bad that you just got to have it. It don't matter what flavor it is, you got to have it. It's that bad. You got a problem. And you don't want to admit that there's something wrong here. And see, when Ryan Clark is talking about the whole NIL thing, you basically saying it like, okay, once you commit. Now, he did say at the end of it, he was talking about the coaches leave and jump ship like they won't. Okay. And that's the point of the NIL. Look, realistically, it makes the coaches have to work harder to keep their players. Look, I'm going to tell you right now, why should a kid waste away 4 years on the bench when he was a 4 or 5-star athlete? He comes in knowing he's got to earn his spot. Okay, maybe there's a 4 or 5-star guy there's 2 or 3, 4 or 5 stars in front of him that are starting. You're asking this 4 or 5-star athlete to wait 3 years before he gets his shot. Now, if you keep a good relationship with him, now mind you, watch this, y'all. I'm of the belief that if a player walks out because he wants playing time, he commits to you, stays 1 year, he redshirts. You go to the coach and you say, "Coach, I want the opportunity to come back." It's real simple. I think it's very simple. The thing that I really have a problem, I'll even throw out there, Isaiah Canaan, the wide receiver that was at Georgia Tech, was ultimately at one point thought to be committed to Notre Dame. He wanted to play closer to home. So he came back. He came to Georgia Tech. Now, I don't know if Marcus Freeman and company handed an overture to him to come back and see if he was interested in returning. Most of the time when players, they play close, they want their family there, they're not going to sway on that. And, of course, he ended up going to Georgia. Those things I definitely understand. And you had those kids that wanted to do that. But when you start talking about you don't like the NIL or the problems you have with NIL, I'm not saying that's what Ryan Clark is, but that's kind of what he's alluding to. You get into that slippery slope of, well, shouldn't coaches finish out the rest of their deals? I mean, you're basically saying in a nutshell, these kids should be getting paid and jumping ship. I mean, that Mensa mess was, yeah, you've had a couple of those happen, and you're going to see more of it. But the issue at hand is players want to play, and they can get paid to go play elsewhere. But as a coach, you can't have that begrudging attitude. As a program, you can't have that begrudging attitude when they do walk out the door. Because needless to say, while you're going for a national championship because you're the bigger dog here, you've got a player that was interested enough to sign with you and sit the bench for 1 year. Meanwhile, he goes and finds greener pastures and opportunities elsewhere, which is not the end of the world. It could be a situation where he's there for 2 years, he plays, has his skills up to the point where now he's got something that's very marketable and profitable in the transfer portal. Now maybe you could get that player back, but it's going to cost you. But here's the key. Now he's become a more refined player instead of wasting away on your depth chart. So with that said, I have no problem with the transfer portal, the NIL, or anything. I think ultimately you get these kids, they want to go to these big programs, and then they realize ultimately I have the ability to play somewhere. But it's what you do with it when you get there. There's a lot of players that they transfer off campus and they don't get that experience. And that's where the trouble begins. I think ultimately if a kid wants to commit to Notre Dame, you can commit and decommit and go to a smaller school, and you just let the coaching staff know, look, I wanted to play. That's just like Deuce Knight. He's at LSU. I mean, I'm sure Notre Dame is probably pretty salty about that. I can't say I blame them. I think that's a situation that may bite both parties in the backside. I don't know yet. But I'm rambling. Let us continue with what Ryan Clark was saying.
But you know what happened? Because there are no rules, because they feel like these dudes are getting paid, now you can use and abuse them and make them play for as long as they want. Now the national championship going to be on January 25th. Yeah.
Now, as far as the use and abuse thing, I don't think that's what the NCAA is doing. We got to remember that these are college kids, and ultimately, I don't agree with the way certain people are saying this and being Ryan Clark. I think ultimately what we got to realize, yes, they are amateur athletes that are getting paid like professionals now. That's not to say that they're trying to get the money out of them. You got to look at it. Yes, it is about the money. Don't get me wrong. But it's not about getting the money out of them. It's about a product. Right now, you could argue college football is as hot as it's ever been. And I remember 10 years ago when they started, when the talks really got deep. I can't remember what year it was. I want to say 2013, 2014 when the first 14 playoff. It was up in there somewhere. But when the talk really happened, I kept hearing, and me and Bruce talked about this on the format, the same people that were against the expansion, their number one objection was, it's too many games and the money. I said when it came out, man, they would make more money than the NCAA basketball tournament. They would absolutely kill it. They would. Nobody seems to have a problem with the basketball teams playing as many games as they do. And I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah, football is a very, very violent sport, an aggressive sport. But you think about the games that they play in basketball. They play, if you take a team that plays in their conference championship games, these invitationals, they play a good 30 plus, I would argue 40. Then you got the tournament. I get it. 16 games is a lot as it is. Indiana got the bye. But then you got the Hurricanes. They played 17. Oh, excuse me. They played 16 because they didn't play in their championship game. So, I think the ultimate issue here is it's like I was listening to somebody else say, you scared of losing your money game. And for the SEC, that's the championship game. Big Ten's championship game is really not, I don't want to say it hadn't caught on, but it's really, to me, it never caught on because it was too many times when they had the two sides, you had the North and you had the South, you had the Wolverines, the Buckeyes, and the Penn State Nittany Lions all on the same side. And then it was just whoever, predominantly Iowa. So, that game, to me, the Big Ten knows they can do without it. And ever since the influx of Oregon and USC, now you're starting to see a little bit more parity and, competition. So, realistically, this is a situation that, in my opinion, has been bubbling over for a while with these sorry excuse conference biases lovers. And tell you the truth, it's really getting annoying. It really is, you guys. And honestly, the more I think about it, the more it's like, y'all just want us to give y'all a championship, don't you? And see, the narrative has gotten to the point now where you can't back it up. See, now the SEC's trying to move the goalpost. It was when you were winning championships. Now it's the toughest conference, the best conference because of how many teams you got that are competitive. I didn't hear that when you had the Big 12 when they had Texas Tech, Oklahoma, and Texas on the same bracket side of their sectional fighting for that one spot in the Big 12 championship game. I didn't hear nobody say the Big 12 was the best conference that year. I didn't hear that year when it was Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State all competing for that one slot in the Big 10 game. Hell, for the longest time, it was Georgia on the East, Alabama, Texas A&M fighting for that spot. Oh, I forgot. You got to throw Missouri in there too. It's repulsive when you hear the arguments. They're disingenuous and they're inaccurate. And without further ado, you guys, let us hear a word from Scam Newton.
Yeah. People gonna be pissed off regardless.
The schedule's a joke.
There's a word that Stephen Anthony just said, and I'm gonna follow up. Bump Notre Dame. Why? You handpick your schedule. Bump Notre Dame. Just to be in the top 12, you just need to be 9-2.
Bump Notre Dame because we handpick our schedule. Hey, Scam. How many quality games did Ole Miss play this year? 1. I find it funny, and I was looking at the comments down here too. They talked about Notre Dame beating an Arkansas team that nobody... They beat an Arkansas team. Keep in mind, we walloped them in Fayetteville. SGT! SGT! Nobody else, until the last 2 games of the year, beat Arkansas by more than 10 points. And guys, I really get sick of hearing this. I really do. And this is when you know you're getting rhetoric pushed upon you because they can't bring facts. Like they're saying Notre Dame handpicks his schedule. Well, look at who the SEC handpicks. Bethune-Cookman, Mercer. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, realistically, you want to say your conference schedule doesn't get handpicked? Cam, stop lying. Greg Sankey's got his hand in the college football playoff committee. What the hell makes you think he ain't got a hand in the scheduling? You overinflate your teams. And as this knucklehead is going to say, he's going to say South Carolina. South Carolina was trash. And I hate using that term because there's somebody's kids out there. But you got to call a spade a spade. And a fool a fool. Cam Newton ain't no fool. He's just an idiot. Yeah, I said it. He's a sorry excuse conference idiot. He's very biased. And he's misinformed. Because guess what? Even after the ass whoopings the SEC took in the bowl season and the college football playoff, you still sitting around here complaining. I said this on Bruce's show, and I'm going to say it again. If you playing such superior competition during the season, why does that not transition over to when you go out of conference? Because like my daddy always said, iron sharpens iron. Don't sharpen. And that's what you spewing, and that's what the SEC's got right now. But I'm going to give you a break. But the thing that y'all don't understand is the same butt whoopings that happened in the SEC, or upsets, they happen in the ACC. Why has Miami got 2 losses? SMU and Louisville. But see, y'all ready to call them trash. I did. In this argument, I'm going to say that's relevant. But ultimately, I'd say they trash. Then you look over at the Big 12. Texas Tech should have been undefeated. They lost one. Ohio State, for the longest time, couldn't get over the Michigan hump. You have upsets that take place every single week. It's getting to the point that you got an unmasked amount of... You're starting to get a parity in college football, something that we have not seen in a long time. Any given Saturday. And it's a beautiful thing. Unless you're a favorite and you're on the other end of that upset. These type of games that Scam is talking about, they happen in every conference. He wouldn't know because he don't watch. Hence why he makes the dumb statements that he makes later on.
Notre Dame. You ain't in no conference. Who cares? About Notre Dame. I'm getting tired of sitting up here having preferential treatment to a mid-team organization, franchise, school at best.
Mid-tier team. We was mid-tier enough to get to the national championship last year. So I guess Georgia's mid-tier now. Sounds like the SEC is mid-tier. You said you tired of preferential treatment for a mid-tier organization? That sounds like the sorry excuse conference, don't it? 5 SEC schools. Why? Because we played each other. Okay. And whom have you beaten the college football playoff? I'll wait. Each other. You beat nobody outside of your conference. What have you done for me lately, Scam? See, idiots like this are the problem in all sports when you deal with biasisms. These are the kind of morons that mess up the game because they think. A lot of the problem with the BCS guys was that we had computers along with people judging them. Oh yeah, people still judged them. I said on the show, the format, I said that people were deciding. They were to a degree because you basically take the AP polls and the coaches polls and you add them together and then the computer decides how those numbers spit out. Now guess who comes up with the formula for that? People. And you don't like the preferential treatment that Notre Dame gets. Tell me, name me an SEC school that can make it on its own. Tell me a team that could go all the way to Dublin, Ireland and sell out. Tell me a team that can go pretty much anywhere in the country and sell out. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You just hate that either you couldn't get into Notre Dame or they didn't want you. Just tell it like it is, Scam. So bump you, Scam Newton. And when Marcus Freeman sends us on a run, be gone. We don't want your praise. We don't want it. So bump you, Scam Newton.
Notre Dame. What has Notre Dame done? What has Notre Dame produced? We produced the most NFL prospects. Man, that's old time, bro.
See, these are these same old cats that we deal with here in Georgia all the time. And I'm sure many of you have dealt with. Man, that's old time. We still putting guys in the NFL. Harrison Smith's going to be a Hall of Famer. Kyle Hamilton's... This is to show you this idiot don't know nothing about what he's talking about. Kyle Hamilton is arguably the best safety in the National Football League. I mean, what more? You got several tight ends, 2 top guards that are getting paid top dollar, several tackles, O-line you, and you still want to bump your gums against Notre Dame. We're arguably going to have a running back dependent upon who decides to pull the trigger first. That's going to have a running back go probably top 10. And I've heard mock drafts all over the place from Jeremiah Love going from number 3 all the way to 15. He won't get past the Dallas Cowboys, you guys. And you got this muffin head who wants to sit there and say mid-tier. Scam. Your conference as a whole is mid-tier. We can even say LSU. You want to know why? 2019 was 7 years ago. It's a long time ago, bro. So guess what? LSU is mid-tier. And with the records they've been spitting out since Kelly was there, mid-tier. You got 2 teams, and that's debatable because Notre Dame done dropped them. You want to keep talking about that tail whooping you put on TCU? You ain't got it. You ain't got it. Let's not mention the fact that Georgia didn't even get into the national championship college football playoff. Last time they had a 14 playoff, Georgia didn't get in. So who's the mid-tier conference now? I mean, you all know what the deal was. You can sit here and cry and whine all you want to. The sorry excuse conference is done.
Man, talk to me. Who you playing on a week-to-week, year-to-year basis? Bump Notre Dame. And I'm going to tell you this. When you start to think about all these different things that the preferential treatment that Notre Dame has gotten, will get, and will continue to get, that's why I'm like, bump Notre Dame. It comes down to a point where now you start to say, Cam, you bitter. SEC is dead. That's cool. Oh, man, whatever. Notre Dame hasn't been relevant in years.
They were just in the national championship game 1 year ago.
They
1
haven't
year
been
ago.
relevant.
Thank you, Shay. I'm sorry, guys, I backed that out. Please don't roast me in the comments.
You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
He talks about the schedule, y'all. Bruce and myself on the show went through, and I went through it on my show. It's something you guys that are loyal listeners, thank you so much and being patient with. I went through this. See, this is when you're ignorant and you're oblivious to your bullshit. You can't see past the blinders. All you want to see is what you want to see. And to the point that you say the most erroneous stuff that could be far from the truth. Georgia didn't have no tough schedule. Tennessee was a fraud. Alabama, that so-called gauntlet you called, trash.
You weak, pathetic fool. All too easy.
The polls are set up so that the SEC, when they knock each other off, it lifts them up. If we beat a team that's here, that's okay. We're still here. But if this team here beats this team, guess what? We shoot them all the way to the top. No harm, no foul. The only team that they struggled putting in the top 25 was by reputation of the past was Vanderbilt. Now, I will give you Vanderbilt, but even so, the only reason I give you that is because Diego Pavia is a generational player. Not in the sense that he's super athletic, but he's just that kind of driving force that makes college football exciting. He's like that Tim Tebow-ish type player. He has that thrill to win. And I'll tell you, it takes a lot for me to say that about an SEC player because I hate listening to these SEC wine boxes and bias cockatoos talk about it. I never want to give them credit because realistically, they don't deserve it. They toot their own horns enough. But I will say this. Do I think Vanderbilt was a pretty good football team? You could argue that. You could. But when you sit down and you really, really watch these games, which he doesn't, you really start to see what we bring to the party, what Indiana brought to the party, and I'll even include Miami, what Miami brought to the party. But what you did not see is why a lot of people thought Indiana and Notre Dame would have been the matchup of the year. Didn't. Nobody wanted to talk about that. And even Scam right here, you wouldn't have one SEC team that could have slowed down that Indiana football team. But you the best conference. Not even close. But it just begs the question. What's the measuring stick for being the best conference? Because it's changed. And the SEC is changing, moving the goalposts now. Now they want to say which conference is the deepest. And I would argue the ACC is the deepest. You can laugh if you want to. You laugh because Notre Dame ran through it. And I would challenge any of you. We'd run through the SEC. Ask Arkansas. You didn't walk the dog with them when you had your chance, and you had plenty of opportunities. Now, I'm going to slow this down a little bit because, needless to say, I don't want it to run too long. It's already ran long enough. But I'm going to do a part 2 to this, you guys, because ultimately, the haterade has got to stop. And as long as I'm here, and ultimately, this is the reason why I started doing my show, is because of situations like this when you want to put us on blast, and the only person that is really trying to mediate this argument and keep it some ground level is Shay. Ryan Clark did somewhat, but he tap danced around it. Bruce was the one that alluded to that as well. We talk about him on the show too. But guys, make sure that you guys like and subscribe to the show. Leave your comments down there. I know plenty of you are going to want to comment on this. You don't like what I said? Please feel free to lay it down. I will definitely reply in the second part to this. But if you like the show, hit that thumbs up, as well as hit the subscribe button if you want more content from Mr. CeeLo, as well as hit that bell notification so you can get all of my shows as they come out, along with my quick reels that I'll be putting out as well. But guys, make sure you go over to the Facebook page, Talk Like a Champion, join it, as well as the group, join it as well as going over to my personal Instagram at Mr. CeeLo so you can keep up with all my off-season shenanigans that I will be caught up in. But until we meet again, may the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun rise warm upon your face. May the rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand.